Please note, this training video makes reference to the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, the Health and Safety at Work Northern Ireland Order 1978, and the HSE, Health and Safety Executive. If you are watching this video from outside of the UK or Ireland, your organisation has adopted a health and safety management system based on and guided by these laws. However, it is important to note that the Health and Safety Authority for your country or region may have some different regulations. If you are concerned that these conflict with the information in this training video, please email your concerns to your line manager or info@workplace-rm.com. Wellbeing. Psychological hazards include those that have an adverse effect on an employee's mental health or well-being. For example, stress and workplace violence. Work-related stress. The HSE defines stress as a harmful reaction people have to undue pressures and demands placed on them at work. There is a difference between stress and pressure. We all experience pressure on a daily basis and need it to motivate us and enable us to perform at our best. It's when we experience too much pressure without the opportunity to recover that we start to experience stress. A certain amount of stress provides motivation, a positive outlook, and good performance. However, it is when these personal levels are exceeded that detrimental health effects may appear. Excessive stress for long periods can cause tiredness, anxiety and depression, panic attacks, headaches, raised blood pressure, indigestion, muscle tension, or increased heart rate. There are 6 key areas of work design that, if not properly managed, are associated with poor health and well-being, lower productivity, and increased sickness absence. The 6 management standards that cover the primary sources of stress at work are: demands. This includes issues such as workload, work patterns, and the work environment. Control. How much say the employee has in the way they do their work. Support. This includes the encouragement, sponsorship, and resources provided by the organisation, line management, and colleagues. Relationships. This includes promoting positive working to avoid conflict and dealing with unacceptable behaviour. Role. Whether employees understand their role within the organisation and whether the organisation ensures that they do not have conflicting roles. And change. How organisational change, large or small, is managed and communicated in the organisation. Your employer's policy and procedure should address all work-related illnesses and in particular stress to control, reduce or eliminate so far as is reasonably practicable. Through the risk assessment process, the employer will continue to identify hazards and assess all mental and physical risks to health and safety with the objective of reducing them as far as is reasonably practicable. There are controls that can be put in place by both employees and employers to manage this. These are: employers must ensure good people management, improve communication, redesign jobs, improve working conditions, and allow flexibility. Employees should look at what is making you become stressed and try to identify the causes and what you can do to make things better. Ideally, tell your line manager at an early stage. If your stress is work-related, this will give them the chance to help and prevent the situation getting worse. If the source of pressure is your line manager, find out what procedures are in place to deal with this. Speak to your HR department. In either case, a one-to-one assessment form will be completed to eliminate stress or control the risks from stress. Violence, bullying and harassment. Abuse and violence against employees can often follow on from dealing with disgruntled customers or colleagues, thieves, or the general public. Work-related violence is defined by the HSE as an incident in which a person is abused, threatened, or assaulted in circumstances relating to their work. Abuse and violence against employees is not part of the job and will not be tolerated. Hazards. Verbal abuse and threats are the most common types of incident, leading to anxiety or stress, depression, reduced morale, and increased sickness absence. Physical attacks are comparatively rare. What do I have to do? Remember, most conflict can be avoided or diffused through good customer service and positive communication skills, which will have been included in induction training when you join the company. The main thing employees need to understand is: never respond to aggression and verbal abuse. If you do, you will be putting yourself and others at greater danger. It is critical that employees know when to turn the situation over to a manager. When a situation is developing with a customer where they are getting more and more irate, hand over to a manager or supervisor and do not continue to get involved. Theft prevention. As an employee, one of your tasks is likely to be the prevention of theft. When you're at work, make an effort to greet persons on site and offer help. For example, ask who they are here to see. Keep the workplace neat and tidy to provide good lines of sight and so as not to create blind spots. Safety first. Should you spot a thief, keep your personal safety and that of others in mind. If they leave the workplace with goods or equipment, do not run after them. Call the police and let the professionals handle it. It is not worth being injured over a stolen item. Should a person be violent towards you, do not risk your own safety. Move away, ideally to a secure area, and summon assistance. You must never respond to violence. If you do, you will be putting yourself and others at greater danger. Report all incidences of aggression and verbal abuse to your supervisor or manager. Smoking. To protect everyone from the risks of passive smoking whilst they're at work, there is a no smoking policy in place in all buildings. It is also the law. This includes offices, rest areas, and any vehicles used for work. This approach also extends to the use of e-cigarettes. Smoking at work is only allowed in the clearly designated locations or smoking zones. This is because, as well as increasing the risk of passive smoking for colleagues, customers, and members of the public, it can create a bad impression of the company and damage reputation. If you are unsure where the designated locations are for your building, ask your manager. Alcohol and drugs. What is alcohol misuse? Alcohol misuse refers to an alcohol-related problem which is defined as any drinking, either intermittent or continual, which interferes with a person's health and social functioning and/or work capability or conduct. What is drug misuse? Drug misuse refers to the use of illegal drugs and the misuse, whether deliberate or unintentional, of prescribed medicines or solvents. The company will also be breaking the law if they knowingly allow drug-related activities on their premises and they fail to act. If employers knowingly allow an employee under the influence of alcohol or drugs to continue working, and this places the employee or others at risk, the employer could be prosecuted. Similarly, employees have a general duty under the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974 to take responsible care for themselves and others who could be affected by what they do. Employees are expressly forbidden to consume alcohol when at work or to bring it onto company premises. Employees who misuse drugs which have not been prescribed on medical grounds will, in the absence of mitigating circumstances, be deemed to committing an act of gross misconduct and will thus render themselves subject to the company's disciplinary procedures. This also applies to employees believed to be buying or selling drugs or in the possession of unlawful drugs. Employees under the influence of alcohol or drugs will be escorted from the premises immediately, pending further investigation. In the case of prescribed drugs, their possession and proper use is acknowledged as legitimate. Managers should be familiar with policy procedures relating to alcohol and drug misuse. Ensure that their staff understand their policy and their own responsibilities. Be alert to and monitor changes in employees such as impaired work performance, unexplained and increased absenteeism, unusually high levels of sickness, absence for colds, flus or stomach upset, instances of unauthorised absence or leaving work early, poor timekeeping such as lateness, especially after lunch, unusual irritability, aggression and mood changes, tendency to be confused and fluctuations in concentration and energy, any accidents. Managers must take an objective and non-judgmental approach when counselling or interviewing staff. They must identify any aspect of the working environment which could lead to alcohol or drug abuse and, if possible, change them. Intervene early when there are signs or problems. And escort employees from the premises immediately pending further investigation if an employee is known to be or strongly suspected of being intoxicated by alcohol or drugs during work hours. Employees should arrive at work free from the effects of alcohol and drugs, notify your line manager or supervisor if taking prescribed drugs, ensure alcohol is not consumed during work hours. This includes lunch and break times, except where approval has been granted in advance by directors. Equally, when external entertaining, employees consuming alcohol must not return to duty whilst under the influence of alcohol. Avoid covering up or colluding with colleagues, and urge colleagues to seek help if they have problems arising from alcohol or drug misuse. You can find out more via the links shown. End of section recap. Through the risk assessment process, the employer will continue to identify hazards and assess all well-being risks to health and safety with the objective of reducing them, as far as is reasonably practicable. Immediately report well-being concerns either to your line manager or HR department, and follow information, instruction and training given. End of course recap. You should now know how to enhance your safety, health and well-being through everyday behaviours and be able to Identify why it is important to work safely. Identify everyone's responsibilities in relation to health, safety, and well-being in the workplace. Define key terms in health and safety. Identify workplace hazards and risks, their impact and how to control them. And identify ways in which health, safety, and well-being are managed and improved within the workplace.